Hey everyone, Mark Montgomery here with Great College Advice, and now we're going to go over the first prompt of all the common application prompts and to dive right in and see what is necessary in order to fully answer this prompt and what the considerations are if you're going to decide to use this prompt as the basis for your primary personal statement. The prompt goes like this. Some students have a background, identity, interest, or talent that is so meaningful that they believe their application would be incomplete without it. If this sounds like you, then please share your story. Now, the first thing we have to remember is what are the two main components of any essay. First is a story, and then a reflection. And there's this word story right here, the last word of the prompt. You want to be thinking about what is your story. So you do want to explain your background, identity, interest, or talent through a story, through an anecdote, an incident, event, something that happened. So a story. Once upon a time, this happened. What is this story about? Well, it's about a background, identity, interest, or talent. So a background, of course, is your personal circumstances into which you are born or which you live. Basically, your background is something over which you have very little control, but it is certainly something that helps define you as a person. Your identity, on the other hand, is how you define yourself. Your circumstances or the way the world looks at you may not actually be the way you identify yourself and present yourself in the world. So these could be different things. An interest and a talent, those are kind of two sides of the same coin. An interest is something that you enjoy, that occupies your time, that you are willing and very able to put your time and energy into. And a talent is something that you just are able to do, that you're really good at. Now you can have an interest in which you have no talent, and you can have a talent in which you have no interest. So those two things are different. So everybody, every human being has all of these things, a background, identity, interest, or talent that they could share on their application. But in this essay, there's another bit here in the prompt that helps us to determine whether this particular interest or talent is something that would be a good addition to your application. And that is this phrase that it is so meaningful that you believe your application would be incomplete without it. So incomplete without it. I like to think of this as it should be an interest or talent that is not otherwise visible on your application. So your interest, your talent, your background, your identity may not be something that shows up, for example, in your activity list or in the coursework that you have done. Maybe this is something that I would only know about you if I really knew you. So your application would be incomplete. I would not really fully understand who you are as a person unless I understood this background, identity, interest, or talent. So, for example, if you're an athlete, let's say you're a swimmer, should you write about your interest or your talent in swimming? Well, if you're a varsity swimmer and you've been doing club swimming and you are going to the state championships every year, and that's on your application in spades, and it's probably something that is going to show up in your, maybe in your recommendations, maybe even you're being recruited for the sport. Is that something that you should really make the focal point of your essay? Probably not, because you want to expand or elaborate on other aspects of your humanity that are not otherwise visible. So again, your application would be incomplete without it. The other thing is meaningful, this word meaningful to you. And that implies the question, why? Why is this activity, interest, background, or talent so important to you? what is it that necessitates your sharing this particular item with an admissions officer, with someone else? Because again, you're trying to get your reader to understand who you are as a person. So the question why is really the foundation of the reflection that this essay would elicit. So you've got to do several things here. You've got to identify the background, talent, interest, or identity. You have got to come up with a story, an anecdote that helps me to understand what this talent is, what this interest is, what this identity is. I want to really understand that. And then the other thing is that you want to make sure that it is something that your application would be incomplete unless I spent the time writing this essay and sharing it with my reader. And then finally, it has to be meaningful, and you have to explain why this is meaningful and important, crucial actually to you, so that I, your reader in the admissions office, will feel like, wow, I really understand this applicant so much better. So those are the basic elements. Of course, you can elaborate. It doesn't really matter what the interest or talent or background or identity really is. It can be absolutely anything that you can think of. For example, I've had students communicate an interest in fighter aircraft. They've been doing models and thinking about military aircraft since the time they were little kids, and have been in flight simulators and read all kinds of books about it. I've had students who have been interested in Hello Kitty, that have a huge collection of Hello Kitty memorabilia and stuff, you know. But the question is why? Why is that important? So that's what makes it hard. Hello Kitty? Why was Hello Kitty important to this young woman? Well, she was able to explain that she came from a very traditional Chinese family. She was an only child. She was a girl. And she said to me when we were discussing the essay, she said, you know what, Mark? Do you know that Hello Kitty has no mouth? Okay, I didn't know. I guess I didn't notice that. And she said, after a lot of thinking, she said, you know, sometimes as a girl, only child, traditional Chinese family, I feel like I have no mouth. That's the why. Why was Hello Kitty important to her? Yeah, it's cute and cuddly and fun, frivolous. But it also had a deeper meaning to her. And once she shared that meaning with her reader, boom! You know, that was like lights going off, and really understanding her personality, her priorities, and her background, as it turns out. So anyway, so it can be really anything, absolutely anything that you enjoy, that you're talented at doing, that may not be part of your everyday life at school or in your official extracurricular activities. Share those things with the reader, and therefore you will communicate who you are as a person and what is important to you. So good luck with this prompt. It can be a fun one. It's a pretty broad one, and anything goes, as long as you explain why it's meaningful, why, and you make sure that it's something that is not overly written about in the rest of your application. So have fun.